Forced to marry a stranger, the CEO never expected his wedding night would change his heart. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The rain fell in thin, silver threads over Midtown Manhattan, streaking across the glass walls of Harrison Tower like cold tears. High above the city, on the 59th floor, Marissa Coleman stood silently in the polished marble lobby, clutching the strap of her worn handbag as if it were a lifeline. She had no idea why she had been summoned here. The email had been formal, urgent, and completely mysterious. A security guard guided her through a long hallway until they reached a set of black double doors. Please wait inside. He will be with you shortly, the guard said before stepping away. The office was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glowing Manhattan grid, every light a reminder of how far from her world she truly was. Marissa swallowed hard. Her sneakers were damp from the rain, leaving faint prints on the pristine floor. She tugged at her sleeve, trying to smooth it out, wishing she looked more prepared, more like someone who belonged in a place like this. A quiet click echoed through the room. Cole Harrison entered. Tall, sharply dressed, expression unreadable. His suit was charcoal, his tie perfectly knotted, not a single crease out of place. He walked with the calm precision of a man who controlled everything in his life, down to the final decimal in a quarterly report. The air seemed to tighten around him. Miss Coleman, he asked, his voice low, steady, and impossibly composed. Yes, she managed, her throat suddenly dry. He did not offer a handshake. Instead, he walked past her toward the window, hands in his pockets, eyes on the rain-blurred skyline. I will be direct, he said. I need to be married within the next 7 days. Marissa blinked. Surely she misheard. I am sorry. What did you say? Cole turned, and the first time she saw the exhaustion behind his controlled exterior. This is not about romance, he continued. It is business. A legal requirement tied to my family ownership of Harrison Industries. Without a spouse, my position becomes vulnerable. The board is preparing to move against me. Her heart pounded. And what does that have to do with me? Cole picked up a folder from his desk and slid it toward her. Inside were documents, contracts, non-disclosure agreements, and an outline of terms that made her stomach twist. You will be compensated, he said simply. Enough to clear your mother's medical debts. Enough to give you stability for years. Marissa froze. Her mother's hospital had been calling every week. Bills were stacked on the kitchen table back home. She had been working double shifts at the community center, barely making minimum wage. She should have walked out. She should have said no immediately. But the fear in her chest tightened like a fist. Why me? She asked softly. Because you have no ties to my world, Cole replied. No ambition to climb corporate ladders. No interest in exploiting this arrangement. My assistant found your profile during charitable partnerships. You were suitable. The word stung. Everything will be handled discreetly, he added. 3 months of public appearances. Separate rooms. A clean separation afterward. You will be free. The rain outside thundered harder against the glass. Marissa closed the folder. Her hands trembled. This is insane, she whispered. Cole did not deny it. He just stood there, watching her with an expression that was neither cruel nor kind, simply determined. She turned toward the elevator, desperate to leave, but her phone buzzed. A message from the hospital. Urgent. Your mother's balance is past due. Treatment may be interrupted. Please contact us immediately. The breath left her lungs. Slowly, painfully, she looked back at Cole Harrison, the stranger who held the power to save her family, at a cost she never imagined paying. His voice was quiet when he spoke again. Marissa, I am offering you a way out of your situation. And in return, I am asking you to be my wife. The city lights flickered across his face, casting him half in shadow, half in gold. A man of power. A man with secrets. A man about to collide with her life in a way neither of them could predict. Marissa closed her eyes, fighting the storm inside her. And then, with a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff, she whispered, "What do you need me to do?" The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Marissa stepped out into the dim lobby of Harrison Tower. The rain had not stopped. It drummed steadily against the glass walls, a constant reminder of the storm spreading through her life. She wrapped her worn jacket tighter around herself as she walked toward the exit, her mind spinning. Cole Harrison's offer echoed in her ears like a distant siren. Marriage. To a stranger. A contract. A lifeline. A trap. All at once. Outside, New York felt colder than usual. Taxi lights blurred through the rain as she rushed toward the subway entrance, her breath hitching in her chest. She needed space. She needed air. She needed to understand what kind of world she had been dragged into. As the train rattled through the tunnel, she stared at her reflection in the dark window. Damp hair clinging to her cheeks. Eyes red from strain. A young woman trying to stay afloat in a system that never gave her a chance. The hospital message still sat on her phone like a silent threat. Her mother's medical bills. Her 2 part-time jobs that barely covered groceries. The fear of eviction. The feeling of running out of time. Cole had said she was suitable. She hated that word. It made her feel like a file on someone's desk instead of a human being. When she reached her apartment building in Queens, the stairwell lights flickered. The place always smelled of old carpet and steamed vegetables, but tonight, it felt heavier. Her neighbor, Mrs. Ruiz, waved from her door. Marissa, sweetheart, the hospital called here earlier. They could not reach you, she said gently. Marissa felt her knees weaken. She forced a smile and thanked her before trudging up the stairs. Inside her small apartment, the air was still. She set her bag down, sat on the edge of her bed, and exhaled shakily. Her mother's framed photos sat on the nightstand. It showed them at a county fair years ago. Her mother laughing, holding a caramel apple. Marissa leaning against her, carefree. Carefree. She could barely remember what that felt like. Her phone buzzed. Another hospital reminder. Balance overdue. Treatment may be affected. The word stabbed her with a fear no one should ever have to feel. She buried her face in her hands. What am I supposed to do? She whispered. Hours passed. The rain eased. The city hummed under the night. Finally, exhausted and shaking, she reached for the folder Cole had given her. She had stuffed it into her bag without looking at the details, but now, she forced herself to open it. A prenuptial agreement. A confidentiality clause. A 3-month public marriage requirement. A compensation package large enough to save her mother, clear every debt, and give them a chance at survival. Her chest tightened. It felt wrong. It felt cold. But so did watching her mother suffer because of money. Her phone lit up with a message from Cole's assistant. If you have questions, Mr. Harrison will be in his office at 7 in the morning. He will wait for your decision. She stared at the screen. 7 in the morning. That was only a few hours away. She looked around her apartment. The peeling paint. The stack of unopened bills. The medical notices. The empty fridge. Her life had been a long chain of sacrifices. But this was different. This was stepping into someone else's world. Someone powerful enough to change everything, yet distant enough to feel unreal. She lay back on her bed, eyes open, unable to rest. Outside, dawn began to seep into the sky, painting it a muted gray. At 6:30, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror. Hair pulled back, eyes steady, heart terrified, but determined. She grabbed her bag, checked the folder once more, and stepped into the hallway. On the subway ride back to Manhattan, she repeated the same sentence in her mind, as if it could anchor her. You are doing this for your mother. You are doing this for survival. You are doing this because you have no other choice. When she entered the lobby of Harrison Tower for the second time in less than 24 hours, she felt different. Not stronger. Not braver. Just resolved. The elevator doors opened onto the 59th floor. Cole Harrison stood there, already waiting, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. She inhaled, steadying herself. Mr. Harrison, she said quietly, I have made my decision. He did not move. He did not blink. And he asked. Marissa lifted her chin, the weight of her world behind her. I will do it. The moment Marissa spoke the words, I will do it, the office seemed to shift. Not warmer, not kinder, just heavier, as if the choice she had made settled into the air between them like invisible weight. Cole Harrison gave a slow nod, the kind that revealed nothing about what he truly thought. Follow me, he said. He led her through a corridor of glass-walled conference rooms until they reached a smaller space, quiet and immaculate. A long table stretched through the center, and on it rested a thick, neatly organized folder. A pen lay beside it, positioned perfectly parallel. "Please sit," Cole said. Marissa lowered herself into the chair, her fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. Cole took the seat across from her, opening the folder with the precision of a man who lived by structure and order. "This agreement outlines the expectations," he began, sliding the first document toward her. His tone was steady, measured, almost clinical. "It protects both of us." Marissa's pulse quickened as she glanced down at the pages. There were so many lines, so many stipulations. Cole continued, "The marriage will be legally binding for 3 months. During that time, you will appear publicly as my wife. You will attend required events, charity functions, and board dinners." He paused, letting her absorb the words before moving on. "You will live at Harrison Tower. A private room will be provided for you. There will be no expectation of sharing a bedroom or any physical closeness." Marissa exhaled slowly, grateful for the clarity. She had feared that part more than she wanted to admit. Cole tapped the next section. "You will not give interviews. You will not post anything online about the marriage. Every detail remains confidential." Marissa nodded, still reading. "And this?" she asked, pointing to an unfamiliar clause. "That is the non-disclosure agreement," Cole explained. "Even after the marriage ends, you will not discuss the terms or the internal matters of my company or family." His eyes stayed on her, steady and dark. "This protects you as much as it protects me." She looked up, confused. "How does it protect me? If anything were to happen, if tabloids pursued you, or if someone attempted to twist your story, you would have legal grounds to stop them. You will not be alone in this." The word surprised her. Not the legal part. He had explained that clearly. But the final sentence. A flicker of something almost human. Cole flipped to the final section of the contract. "This outlines the financial agreement," he said. "Your mother's medical debt will be fully covered starting today. You will receive a monthly stipend during the 3 months. And once the marriage concludes, you will receive the remaining amount." Marissa stared at the numbers. It did not feel real. It felt like she was reading someone else's fate. Cole leaned forward slightly. "There is one thing you need to understand clearly." Marissa lifted her eyes. "This marriage is not romantic. It is not emotional. It is a transaction. I do not expect affection. I do not offer it." His voice did not waver. "You will remain independent. You will have your own routine, your own life. As long as you fulfill the public expectations, I will not interfere with your personal boundaries." Marissa swallowed. "So it is a partnership," she said quietly. "A contract," Cole corrected. "Nothing more." She nodded slowly, her heartbeat steadying as she began to understand the shape of the world she was stepping into. A cold shape, a rigid one, but at least it was defined. Cole slid the pen toward her. "You may take time to think if you need it." Marissa shook her head. "I have already thought about it." Her hand trembled slightly as she signed the first page, then the second, then the third. By the time she reached the final signature line, she felt as if she had stepped out of her own life and into a story she did not recognize. When she put the pen down, Cole closed the folder and locked it inside a briefcase. "It is done," he said. The words hit her with surprising force. Cole stood and straightened his jacket. "My driver will take you to your new residence this evening. A stylist will prepare clothing for upcoming events. If you have personal belongings you want to bring, pack lightly. The staff will assist if needed." Marissa rose slowly from her chair. She felt small in that perfect room, dwarfed by the very life she had just agreed to enter. At the door, Cole paused. He looked at her, not unkindly, but with the calm distance of a man who had learned not to let anyone close. "This arrangement will be orderly and efficient," he said, "as long as we both follow the rules." Marissa nodded. "I understand." She stepped out into the hallway, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Behind her, the man she had agreed to marry returned to his work, his expression unreadable, his world unchanged. But hers, everything had shifted. The afternoon sky over Manhattan was a pale, washed-out gray when the black sedan pulled up to the courthouse steps. Marissa sat in the back seat, hands clasped tightly together, trying to quiet the steady tremor in her chest. This was the day she would become Marissa Harrison, at least on paper. The reality of that name felt distant, like something borrowed rather than lived. The driver opened her door. "Miss Coleman. Miss Marissa. Mr. Harrison is waiting inside." Her heart tightened. She nodded and stepped out, smoothing the front of the simple cream dress the stylist had chosen for her. Nothing extravagant, nothing bridal, just clean lines and quiet colors, appropriate for a transaction, not a celebration. Inside the courthouse, the air smelled faintly of old wood and printer paper. People walked past her on their way to traffic hearings, license renewals, and everyday legal matters. No one knew that a billionaire CEO was getting married in one of the small administrative rooms down the hall. Cole Harrison stood near the window, dressed in a charcoal suit that matched the untouched formality she had seen before. His posture was straight, almost rigid. He checked his watch once, then looked at her with the same calm, unreadable expression. "You made it," he said simply. "I did," she replied, her voice small but steady. An officiant entered the room with a clipboard. "Are you two ready?" he asked, glancing between them without recognizing who Cole was. It was strange for Marissa to see a moment where Cole was not treated like a powerful figure, but simply another citizen filing paperwork. Cole gave a quick nod. "Yes, let us proceed." The ceremony lasted barely 5 minutes. There were no vows beyond the legal minimum. No music, no flowers, no family, no small moments of laughter or nerves like she had once imagined a wedding would have. Just signatures, a brief exchange of rings, and the soft, official stamp of a seal pressed onto paper. Cole slid the ring onto her finger without hesitation, his touch precise but distant. It was a simple band, smooth and unadorned. Not chosen for romance, but for symbolism, an item required to complete a public image. When it was her turn to place the ring on his hand, she struggled for a moment with the fit. Her fingers shook slightly, and she whispered, "I am sorry." Cole paused, steadying his hand. "It is fine. Take your time." The officiant cleared his throat after they finished. "Congratulations. You are legally married." The words echoed strangely in the small room. Marissa felt something shift inside her, not joy, not fear, something in between. A quiet awareness that her life had taken a turn she had never imagined, one she could not undo for the next 90 days. The officiant stepped out, leaving them alone. Cole picked up the certified marriage document and slipped it into a folder. "Our public statement will be released by the end of the day," he said. "My assistant will handle the media inquiries. You do not have to speak to any reporters." "Thank you," she murmured. He gestured toward the hallway. "The car is waiting. We will leave separately to avoid attention." She moved toward the door, but paused when she heard him speak again. "This was necessary for both of us," he said, not quite looking at her. "We will keep it as simple as possible." Marissa nodded, unsure how to respond. Outside, the city's noise rushed back in. Car horns, distant sirens, the hum of Manhattan life continuing without pause. She watched Cole walk down the courthouse steps and enter his sedan, the door closing with a muted thud. Her own car arrived moments later. She stepped inside, leaning back as the driver pulled away. She slipped off her shoes and pressed her bare feet into the floor mat, grounding herself. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers brushing the new ring she would have to wear in front of cameras, in front of strangers, in front of a world that would never know the truth. She stared out at the passing streets, the towering buildings, the rush of pedestrians. Somewhere in the middle of that chaotic city, she was now a wife in name, a partner by contract, and a woman stepping into a life she still did not understand. The driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Congratulations, I think," he said gently, offering a sympathetic smile. Marissa let out a soft breath. "Thank you," she whispered. But in her chest, the words tasted heartbreakingly uncertain. Nothing about today felt like a beginning. It felt like the closing of a door she never meant to walk through. The sun had already dipped behind the skyline by the time Marissa's car reached Harrison Tower. The building rose into the night like a polished blade of glass, its lobby glowing with warm golden lights that felt too elegant, too distant, too unreal. She stepped out of the sedan with her small suitcase, the wheels clicking softly across the marble floor as the doorman greeted her with a polite nod. "Mrs. Harrison," he said respectfully. Marissa almost stumbled. It was the first time someone had said that out loud. The words landed like a weight she was not ready to carry. A private elevator opened for her, and the ride to the penthouse felt endless. When the doors slid apart, she stepped into a world that was nothing like the apartment she had woken up in that morning. The penthouse was vast and quiet, every surface spotless. Soft lighting spilled across polished wood floors and modern furniture shaped like art pieces. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a sweeping view of the city, glittering like 1,000 tiny stars. A woman in her 40s approached with a gentle, professional smile. "Good evening, Mrs. Harrison. My name is Linda. I am the household coordinator. Mr. Harrison asked me to assist you with anything you need. Please, call me Marissa," she said quickly, feeling the title slip too heavy on her shoulders. Linda nodded kindly. "Very well. Let me show you to your room." They walked down a long hallway, passing living spaces that looked untouched. There were no personal photos, no signs of warmth, only the cold perfection of wealth and minimalism. Linda opened a door to a spacious bedroom decorated in soft cream and gray. "This will be your private space," she explained. "Your bathroom is through here. Closet space has been prepared for you. If there is anything that feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar, please let me know." Marissa stepped inside, running her hand over the smooth fabric of the duvet. She had never lived anywhere like this. Everything smelled faintly of clean linen and something expensive she could not name. Linda hesitated at the door. "Mr. Harrison may arrive late. His schedule is unpredictable, but he wanted to make sure you settled in comfortably." Marissa nodded. She appreciated the kindness, even if she knew it came from staff and not from the man she had married. When she was alone, she set her suitcase on the bed and slowly unpacked. Her clothes looked out of place in the enormous walk-in closet, dwarfed by the empty shelves and gleaming hangers. She placed her mother's framed photo on the nightstand, a small piece of her real world in the middle of all this unfamiliar luxury. Hours passed. The city lights shifted outside the windows. Marissa sat curled on the edge of her bed, watching the skyline and feeling the weight of her decisions settle deeper into her bones. She wondered what her mother would say if she knew. She wondered if she would ever feel at home here. She wondered what kind of man Cole Harrison was beneath the posture and the precision. A soft click echoed down the hallway. Marissa straightened. Footsteps moved across the living room floor until Cole appeared in the doorway of her room, still in his suit, his tie loosened slightly. For the first time, he looked tired. Moments passed in silence. "Did you settle in?" he finally asked. "Yes," she replied quietly. "The room is beautiful." "Thank you." Cole nodded once, as if acknowledging a completed task. "Good. We will have our first appearance at a charity event tomorrow evening. My assistant will brief you on the details." Marissa folded her hands in her lap. "I understand." He lingered, his gaze drifting toward the framed photo on her nightstand. Something flickered across his face. Curiosity, perhaps, or maybe recognition of the life she had left behind. But he said nothing about it. "Your schedule is your own," he added. "You do not need to adjust your daily routines for me." "All right," she said. He stepped back, placing one hand on the edge of the doorway, as if considering whether to say more. But instead of offering comfort or reassurance, he simply gave a short nod. "Good night, Marissa." "Good night." He walked away, and the penthouse returned to its quiet stillness. Marissa sat in the soft glow of the bedside lamp, listening to the faint hum of the city below. She touched the simple ring on her finger, feeling its cool surface against her skin. She had entered this marriage, knowing it would be cold, structured, and distant, but she had not expected the loneliness to settle in so quickly. Somewhere in this massive home, her new husband existed behind walls she could not yet see through, and she lay awake wondering not how to love a man she did not know, but how to survive being married to him for 90 days. The next evening arrived faster than Marissa expected. By 6 o'clock, the penthouse was buzzing with quiet preparation. A stylist team worked around her with gentle efficiency, adjusting her dress, brushing her hair into a soft wave, and applying makeup that looked natural but elegant enough for a high-profile charity gala. When she finally stepped in front of the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back was poised, polished, and, at least on the surface, confident. Inside, Marissa's stomach twisted. Linda approached with a reassuring smile. "You look beautiful. Mr. Harrison will meet you downstairs." Beautiful. The word felt foreign. Marissa followed Linda to the elevator, her heartbeat matching the rhythmic hum of the descending floors. When the doors opened onto the private lobby, Cole was already there, adjusting the cuff of his tailored suit. He looked every bit the powerful CEO, composed and guarded. He turned when he heard her footsteps. For a moment, barely a second, something softened in his eyes. She did not know what it was, or if she imagined it, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "You are ready," he said simply. "I think so," she answered, her voice steady but quiet. Cole offered his arm. It was not a gesture of affection, just formality, but Marissa slipped her hand through it anyway. Together, they stepped into the waiting car, cameras already flashing from a distance. The gala was held in a grand ballroom near Central Park, with chandeliers dripping like crystal waterfalls. Inside, guests in evening attire gathered around elegantly lit tables, murmuring in soft clusters. As soon as Cole entered, heads turned. Conversations paused. Power always shifted a room, and he carried more than his share. Marissa felt eyes sweep over her with curiosity, admiration, and sharp calculation. Cole leaned slightly toward her. "Stay close. You will not have to speak unless spoken to." She nodded, but the pressure only tightened. As they walked deeper into the ballroom, a reporter stepped forward, microphone in hand. "Mr. Harrison, congratulations on your recent marriage. This is your first public appearance as a couple. May I ask how you two met?" Cole inhaled to respond, but Marissa reacted first. She offered a polite smile. It was unexpected, but life has a way of bringing people together at the right moment. The reporter smiled back, disarmed by her sincerity. "Lovely answer. Thank you both." Cole did not comment, but his brief glance told her he had not anticipated she would step in. For the first part of the evening, everything went smoothly. They greeted executives, donors, and board members. Cole introduced her with quiet professionalism, and Marissa followed his lead, answering politely, speaking little. But then, something shifted. Near the center of the ballroom, an elderly board member, Mr. Whitmore, suddenly stumbled backward. A waiter carrying a tray swerved, dropping glasses with a loud crash. Gasps rippled across the room. Marissa reacted instantly. She moved to steady the man, reaching him before anyone else. "Sir, are you all right? Can you hear me?" she asked, supporting his arm. He blinked, dazed. "I lost my balance. I am sorry. It is completely all right. Just breathe for a moment," Marissa said gently. People gathered, murmuring, unsure what to do. Cole stepped closer, his expression tight with concern, but his instincts leaning toward leadership rather than caregiving. Marissa guided the older man to a nearby chair. "Do you have any medical conditions we should know about?" she asked softly. "My blood sugar drops sometimes," he admitted. Marissa turned to a server. "Could you please bring some juice right away? Orange juice if you have it." The server hurried off. Marissa stayed beside the man until the color slowly returned to his cheeks. "Thank you, young lady," he said, giving her hand a grateful squeeze. Marissa smiled warmly. "Just glad you are feeling better." The crowd slowly dispersed, and the hum of conversation resumed. That was when Cole approached her, his expression unreadable. "You handled that well," he said. "I used to help with senior care at the community center," she replied. "It becomes instinct. People just need someone to stay calm with them." Cole looked at her for a long moment. Something analytical, yet strangely softened behind his gaze. "You did more than stay calm," he said quietly. "You prevented panic." The board noticed. Marissa did not know what to say, so she simply nodded. As the evening went on, she sensed the shift around them. People approached her differently. Kinder, more respectful, even impressed. She was no longer just the mysterious newcomer married to a CEO. She was the woman who had stepped forward when no one else had. When the event finally ended, Cole escorted her to the car. The night air carried the scent of rain, and the city lights shimmered across the wet pavement. Inside the car, silence settled between them until Cole spoke. "Tonight went better than expected," he said. Marissa folded her hands gently. "I just did what felt right." "And what felt right," he said, glancing at her, "was exactly what the situation needed. It was not praise. It was not affection. But it was something. A recognition. A shift. A crack in the cold structure of their contract." As the car drove toward the tower of glass that was now their shared home, Marissa stared out the window, wondering what other cracks might appear in a marriage built on rules, distance, and necessity, and whether those cracks were dangerous or the beginning of something neither of them had expected. The car ride back to Harrison Tower was quiet, filled only with the low hum of the engine and the faint whisper of rain against the windows. Marissa kept her gaze on the blurred lights of the city, still replaying the moment at the gala when Cole had looked at her with something she could not quite name. Respect, maybe, or curiosity, or the beginning of something he did not intend. When they stepped into the penthouse, the space felt different than it had the night before. Still quiet, still immaculate, but no longer suffocating, as if the evening's events had loosened something in the air. Linda greeted them briefly before retiring for the night, and soon the penthouse was left with only the soft sound of the city drifting through the glass walls. Marissa removed her heels near the entryway and carried them toward her room. "Good night," she said politely, expecting Cole to disappear into his office as always. But he did not. "Marissa," he called gently. She turned. Cole stood near the living room window, still in his suit, the tie slightly loosened, the posture not as straight as before. The city lights glowed behind him, outlining the edges of a man who always seemed perfectly put together, until right. "Now, do you have a moment?" he asked. Marissa hesitated, then nodded. She stepped closer, keeping a respectful distance. Cole looked out at Manhattan for a long time before speaking. "You handled tonight better than I expected. Better than most people would." "You already said that," she replied softly. "I know, but I needed to say it again." There was sincerity in his voice that surprised her. He rarely repeated himself. He rarely allowed anything emotional to slip through his control. But here he was, doing both. He drew a slow breath. "There is something you should understand about why I keep distance. Why I ask for rules. Why I insist on structure." Marissa waited quietly. "People see me as a CEO," he said. "A last name. A position. A source of power. Nothing else." He paused, pressing his thumb lightly against the window frame, as if grounding himself. "Years ago, I trusted someone I should not have," Cole continued. "Someone who pretended to care, but cared only for what my name could offer. She used what she knew to hurt the company, my family, and me." There was a quiet heaviness in his voice. Not anger, not bitterness. Something heavier, something still healing. Marissa spoke gently. "I am sorry that happened to you." Cole exhaled, a faint, tired sound. "It was my fault for believing things I should not have believed. Since then, I keep everything controlled. Predictable. Contained. Feelings complicate things. They compromise judgment. They weaken structure." He turned toward her, and for the first time, his expression was not unreadable. It was vulnerable. "But tonight," he said slowly, "you were not predictable. You were not calculated. You were simply human. And it reminded me of something I have not felt in a long time." Her breath caught. "What did it remind you of?" "That people can be genuine without wanting something in return." Marissa lowered her gaze for a moment, her heart tightening at the quiet confession. "I do not want anything from you," she said gently. "I only want to get through this with dignity. For both of us." A small, almost invisible smile curved the corner of his lips, more like the ghost of a smile than the real thing. "I know," he said. Silence settled again, but this time it felt soft instead of sharp. Cole rested one hand on the back of the sofa, his shoulders dropping slightly. "I will not always get this right," he admitted. "This arrangement. I know it is difficult, rigid, cold. But tonight reminded me that there is more to it than just rules. I suppose I needed that reminder." Marissa felt warmth rise in her chest. Not romantic warmth. Not yet. But the warmth of seeing a human beneath the carefully built armor. "We are both figuring this out," she said quietly. "Maybe neither of us knows how to do this perfectly." Cole nodded, the tension in his expression easing. He glanced toward the hallway. "It is late. You should rest. Good night, Cole." "Good night, Marissa." She walked toward her room, but before she stepped inside, she looked back at him, still standing by the window, the glow of the city reflecting across his face. For the first time, he did not look like a distant CEO with a strict contract. He looked like a man standing inside the remnants of old wounds, trying, slowly, cautiously, to let a little light in. And that small shift, that almost unnoticeable crack in his carefully controlled world, felt more meaningful than anything that had happened since the day they met. The following week unfolded with a surprising rhythm. Each morning, Marissa woke in the quiet guest room of the penthouse, the soft glow of sunrise filtering through the sheer curtains. Linda would bring her a schedule for the day, and Marissa tried to settle into a life that still felt borrowed. Cole was usually gone before she emerged, leaving behind nothing but a half-finished cup of black coffee and the faint scent of cedar on the air. Despite the distance, something between them had shifted. Not enough to break the rules of their arrangement, but enough that the silence no longer felt hostile, just cautious. On Thursday morning, that silence was interrupted. Marissa sat at the dining table, flipping through a brochure for an upcoming charity program, when her phone buzzed with a notification. She ignored it at first, thinking it was another automated hospital reminder, but then a second alert came in. Then a third. She frowned and opened the first message. It was a link, a headline, then another, then the same headline again, posted by different outlets. Who is Cole Harrison's mysterious bride? Sources claim contract marriage. Her breath froze. The article was full of speculation. Anonymous quotes. Fabricated timelines. Strangers. Claiming to know intimate details of her life. By the fourth paragraph, her hands trembled. They described her as a nobody, a financially desperate young woman, a temporary actress hired to play his wife. Her chest tightened painfully. Panic surged through her. What would this do to Cole? To the company? To the fragile agreement holding her life together? Before she could gather her thoughts, Linda hurried into the room with an anxious expression. Marissa, dear, I think you should see this, she said softly, holding a tablet. I already did, Marissa whispered. Another headline glowed on the screen. Board members question Harrison marriage. Coincidence or cover-up? Marissa's stomach twisted. This was not just gossip. This was dangerous. Cole entered the penthouse moments later, his steps brisk, his expression carved from stone. His assistant, Daniel, followed behind him with a tablet full of notifications. Marissa stood immediately. I did not talk to anyone. I swear I did not. I know, Cole said sharply, raising a hand. This did not come from you. Daniel stepped forward. We traced the earliest posts to accounts connected with Mr. Roger Harrison's network. Marissa stared at them, confused. Who is Roger Harrison? My uncle, Cole answered. And the man who benefits most if this marriage fails. A chill ran through her. Cole continued. The board is already uneasy. My uncle wants them to believe that this marriage is a fraud. If he succeeds, he can challenge my controlling shares. This is exactly the kind of attack he specializes in. Marissa felt her pulse ringing in her ears. What do? We control the narrative, Cole said calmly, but she heard the tension beneath his voice. We stay ahead of it. We do not react emotionally. We remain united. The word, united, struck her unexpectedly, landing with both weight and warmth. Daniel handed Cole a printed packet. These are the talking points for today's interviews. And the charity board wants confirmation that Mrs. Harrison will still attend the luncheon tomorrow. Marissa blinked. They still want me there? Cole met her eyes, and this time his expression was not unreadable. It was protective. Yes, he said firmly. Your presence tonight and tomorrow matters more than ever. People will be watching. They want to see whether we are shaken or whether this marriage is exactly what we say it is. A knot of fear tightened beneath her ribs. I am not used to being watched. I know, he said, his voice lowering slightly. But you handle the gala. You can handle this. Linda placed a gentle hand on Marissa's shoulder. You are stronger than you think. Marissa inhaled slowly, grounding herself. I will do whatever is needed, she said. Cole nodded once. Good. Because there is one more thing. He tapped his phone, turning the screen toward her. A grainy photo filled the image. Marissa outside her old apartment, taken days before their marriage. The headline read, Is this the real life of the billionaire's bride? Her throat tightened. They are digging into my past, she whispered. Cole's jaw clenched, the muscles tightening near his temple. They are trying to humiliate you. And by doing that, they hope to humiliate me. She felt heat rush behind her eyes. Not anger, not panic, but something heavier. I did not ask for any of this, she said, voice shaking. I know, Cole replied softly. And I am going to protect you. That is my responsibility. The words settled between them with unexpected warmth. He stepped closer, not invading her space, but close enough that she could feel the sincerity in his voice. We will face this together, he said. Do not forget that. Marissa nodded slowly, then looked down at the ring on her finger. For the first time since the wedding, the ring did not feel like a symbol of an agreement. It felt like a shield. But outside the walls of the penthouse, the world was sharpening its knives. And she had a feeling the worst of the battle had not yet begun. The next morning arrived heavy and gray. as if the sky itself sensed the shift that had begun. Marissa woke early, but the calm she had hoped to feel did not come. Her stomach twisted with the weight of the headlines, the whispers, the anonymous comments echoing across the internet. When she stepped into the kitchen, hoping for a cup of tea to settle her nerves, she found Cole already there. He was dressed for the day in a perfectly pressed suit, but his expression looked more strained than usual. He glanced up briefly when she entered. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," she replied softly. They exchanged no more words. He checked his watch. She poured her tea. The distance between them, not physical, but emotional, felt sharper than the marble floors beneath her feet. After the firm conversation yesterday, Marissa expected Cole to stay close, to guide her through the public storm, or at least reassure her that the plan had not changed. But instead, he seemed guarded again, withdrawn, as if something had shifted inside him overnight. He grabbed his briefcase. "I will be in meetings all day. Daniel will drive you to the luncheon. Do not worry. Everything is handled." The tone was polite, but not warm. Professional. Detached. Marissa nodded. "All right." He hesitated, just slightly, before adding, "If anything urgent happens, call Daniel. He will reach me. Not call me. Call Daniel." She felt the sting of it, even if she did not want to. When the elevator doors closed behind him, the silence of the penthouse sharpened around her. Linda approached quietly and handed her the outfit prepared for the luncheon. "You will look lovely," Linda said gently. Marissa offered a small smile. "I hope so." But deep down, she felt hollow. The charity luncheon was held at a hotel near Central Park, and when Marissa arrived, the cameras clicked instantly. Reporters called her name. Questions flew through the air. "Mrs. Harrison, are the rumors true? Did you marry for money? How long have you known Mr. Harrison? Is this a staged relationship?" Daniel guided her through the chaos with calm precision. "This way. Keep your head up. You are doing fine." Inside the ballroom, the mood changed instantly. The charity board members offered polite smiles, though some eyes held hesitation, sharp curiosity about the rumors circulating online. Marissa tried to focus on conversations about community programs, youth outreach, and winter shelters. She spoke warmly and sincerely, just as she always did at the community center. But beneath the polished surface, she felt the strain of being watched. Halfway through the luncheon, she overheard two women whispering nearby. "She does not look like someone he would marry. This whole thing screams desperation. She barely fits into this world." Marissa felt the sting of those words, slicing quietly into the back of her mind. For a moment, she wished Cole were there, not to defend her, but simply to show her that she was not standing alone in this unfamiliar world. But he was not. After the luncheon, Daniel escorted her to the car. As soon as the doors closed, he cleared his throat gently. "Mrs. Harrison, may I say something?" "Of course. You handled yourself with dignity today. Regardless of what others say, you did extremely well." His sincerity eased the tightness in her chest. "Thank you, Daniel." He gave a small nod, but his expression carried something heavier. "There is something else," he said. "Mr. Harrison received a message from the board this morning. They want an internal review of the marriage documentation. They believe the rumors may have merit." Marissa's breath caught. "Does that mean the board thinks we lied?" "They are being influenced," Daniel replied. "Someone is pushing this narrative aggressively." "Roger." She knew without needing confirmation. The car moved through the crowded Manhattan streets, but Marissa barely saw the passing lights. "If they believe the marriage is not legitimate," she whispered, "what happens?" Daniel hesitated. "The board could force Mr. Harrison to step down." The air left her lungs in a painful rush. She had known the situation was serious. She had not realized it was catastrophic. When the car returned to Harrison Tower, Cole was not home. Linda said he was still in meetings. Marissa went to her room and tried to distract herself by organizing her things, but everything felt wrong. Upside down. Too big and too small at the same time. By late evening, she heard the elevator chime. She stepped into the hallway. Cole walked in, jaw tight, shoulders stiff, his eyes filled with something cold and stormy. For a moment, she thought he would speak to her, but he walked past her without a word. "Cole," she called gently. He slowed but did not turn fully. "I heard about the board," she said quietly. "I am sorry. You have nothing to apologize for," he replied, voice clipped. "Then what is wrong?" she asked. He finally met her eyes. His gaze was distant, conflicted. This marriage was supposed to stabilize things, he said. But today it made everything worse. The words struck her deeper than he intended. She stepped back slightly. I see. Cole dragged a hand across his forehead, as if trying to erase the day. That is not what I meant. It is all right, she said quickly, her voice steady. I understand. But inside, something cracked. Cole watched her for a moment, wanting to say something else, but whatever words he needed were lost. He turned away. I need to prepare for tomorrow's meeting, he said. Good night. Good night, she whispered. He walked to his office. She walked to her room. And even though only a few steps separated them, it felt like miles. The unity they had found just days before, the slow warmth, the growing trust, had been replaced with distance. A distance neither of them intended, but both of them felt like a cold hand tightening around the fragile thread connecting their lives. The next morning arrived with the same heaviness that had settled over the penthouse the night before. Marissa barely slept, replaying Cole's distant words again and again. She tried to tell herself that he had spoken under pressure, that his stress had twisted the moment, but the ache in her chest lingered. When she stepped into the kitchen, Cole was already there. He looked like he had not slept either. His tie was flawless, but his eyes carried shadows. Good morning, she said cautiously. He lowered his coffee mug. Morning. An awkward silence stretched between them. Too stiff for strangers, too fragile for a married couple, even a contractual one. Marissa gathered her courage. I know yesterday was difficult. If I added stress. You did not, Cole interrupted sharply, then forced his tone softer. Marissa, this is not about you. The board was looking for an excuse long before you came into this. She nodded, though she was not convinced that was the whole truth. Before they could continue, Daniel arrived at the penthouse entrance. Mr. Harrison, the board meeting begins in 1 hour. They requested full documentation of the marriage, including Mrs. Harrison's background. Marissa felt her pulse spike. My background. Daniel hesitated. They want proof that your relationship existed before the marriage license was filed. But it did not, Marissa whispered. Cole's jaw tightened. That is not the point. They want to challenge the legitimacy. They want to force a vote. They will use anything they can. Daniel added quietly. Your uncle will be present as well. He has prepared a formal complaint. The tension in the room thickened. Cole exhaled slowly. Marissa, you do not need to attend. This is a corporate negotiation. It has nothing to do with you personally. Marissa looked at him, searching his face. But it does. Cole blinked, surprised. It has everything to do with me, she continued. These rumors, these accusations, they are using my past to attack you. If I do not show up, I look guilty. And you look like you have something to hide. Daniel glanced between them. She is not wrong. Cole's lips pressed into a thin line. You do not need to put yourself in that position. The board can be ruthless. So can life, Marissa replied quietly. I can handle this. Cole studied her, conflict flickering in his eyes. Then he nodded once. Very well. You will come with me. But you will not speak unless spoken to. And you stay by my side. I will, she said. The boardroom at Harrison Industries was cold and sleek, all glass walls and polished stone. When Cole and Marissa entered, a dozen faces turned toward them, some curious, some judgmental, some openly hostile. At the end of the table sat Roger Harrison. He wore an expensive suit and a smile that did not reach his eyes. Well, Roger said smoothly. The newlyweds. What a surprise. Cole ignored him and guided Marissa to a seat beside him. He placed a reassuring hand on the table, close to hers but not touching. The meeting began. Roger wasted no time. I have reviewed the marriage documents, he announced. And it appears there was no relationship prior to the filing. No engagement period. No introduction to family. No public acknowledgement. He glanced at Marissa with a pointed expression. As far as we can tell, Miss Coleman appeared out of nowhere. She is Mrs. Harrison, Cole corrected, voice cold and controlled. Roger smirked. Legally, perhaps. But public perception matters too. And the public is questioning everything. So is the board. He tapped a folder. Inconsistencies. Suspicious timing. And the fact that this young woman seems to come from modest means. The room shifted uncomfortably. Marissa's hands tightened under the table. Cole leaned forward. My personal life is not under the board's jurisdiction. Roger clicked his tongue. When your personal life impacts shareholders, it becomes very much our business. He turned toward Marissa with the practiced sympathy of a man who enjoyed watching others fall apart. Tell us, dear, did you know Cole before the marriage? Perhaps you two shared a deep emotional connection no one knew about. Marissa held Roger's gaze. No, we met only shortly before the marriage. A whisper of judgment rippled through the room. Roger spread his hands. There you have it. But, Marissa continued, her voice steady, that does not mean our marriage is fraudulent. Cole looked at her sharply, surprised she spoke, surprised she stayed so calm. Marissa lifted her chin. You want to question my past? My income? My neighborhood? That is fine. I have nothing to hide. But do not mistake financial struggle for dishonesty. And do not confuse being an outsider with having bad intentions. The room fell silent. She continued, if you want to know why we did not have a public relationship before the wedding, the answer is simple. We kept our personal agreement private. And that is our right. Roger's smile faded. Marissa finished softly. I may not come from wealth, but I come with integrity. And I will not let you weaponize my life to punish him. Cole watched her, something shifting in his expression, something almost like awe. Roger recovered quickly. How touching. But unfortunately, sincerity does not override corporate protocol. He turned to the board. I move that we initiate a vote to review Cole's controlling shares. His instability puts this company at risk. But before anyone could respond, a new voice spoke. I disagree, said Mr. Whitmore. The board member Marissa had helped at the gala. He stood slowly, steady on his feet this time. This young woman showed grace and compassion when no one else acted. If she says her intentions are honest, I believe her. Another board member nodded. So do I. A third added, this attack feels personal, Roger. Not professional. The room shifted again, this time in Cole's favor. Cole rose to his feet, posture tall and unshakable. My marriage is legitimate, he said clearly. And unless the board has actual evidence to the contrary, this discussion ends here. Silence stretched across the room. Finally, the chairman cleared his throat. There will be no vote today. Meeting adjourned. Roger's jaw clenched. Cole placed a steady hand on the back of Marissa's chair. Let us go, he said softly. As they stepped into the hallway, Marissa released a breath she did not realize she had been holding. Cole turned to her, his eyes softer than she had ever seen them. You did not have to defend yourself like that, he said quietly. But you did. I was defending you too, she replied. Cole lowered his gaze for a moment, then spoke with quiet sincerity. Thank you, Marissa. And for the first time, he meant it in a way that went deeper than business, deeper than necessity, deeper than their contract. It was the beginning of something real, something neither of them had planned for, but both of them felt. The hours after the board meeting passed in a quiet, steady rhythm. The tension that had filled the air for days slowly dissolved, replaced by something calmer, something lighter. When Cole and Marissa returned to the penthouse, Linda greeted them with relieved warmth, and even the usually silent space felt different, as if it had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. That evening, Cole asked Marissa to join him in his office, not as part of the contract, not as a requirement, but as something closer to partners navigating the same storm. When she stepped into the room, she found him studying a stack of documents spread across his desk. He glanced up when she entered. I wanted your opinion on something, he said. Marissa blinked, surprised. My opinion? Yes, he replied. You handled yourself well today. Better than many people who have worked in corporate spaces for years. And after what happened at the gala, you showed you understand people. That is something this company has forgotten lately. He handed her a folder. What is this? She asked. A proposal, Cole said. Something your presence has made me reconsider. Marissa opened the folder. Inside were sketches, photos, and community outreach notes. Plans for expanding the Harrison Foundation's social programs into more vulnerable neighborhoods. But at the bottom of the stack was one document that caught her breath. Project Open Hands, Mobile Aid Initiative. A traveling unit that provided temporary shelters, meals, medical checks, and social support. Something she had seen once at the community center when volunteers from another city visited. You want to start this? She whispered. Cole nodded. It was an idea that the foundation reviewed years ago, but it never moved forward. Too expensive. Too complicated. Not profitable. He paused. But seeing how you interacted with people at the gala, how you treated Mr. Whitmore, it reminded me that not everything has to be measured in returns. Marissa traced the corner of a sketch with her finger, her voice full of quiet awe. This could help so many people. That is what I thought, Cole said. But it needs someone who understands the communities it will serve. Someone who has lived outside these walls. His eyes held hers. Someone like you. She looked up quickly. You want me to lead it? If you are willing, Cole said. You have insight I cannot manufacture. You know how to speak to people, how to calm them, how to understand what they need. This project will fail without someone who can connect it to real lives. Marissa felt her throat tighten. I do not know if I am qualified enough. Cole shook his head. You are exactly qualified. You have experience from the community center. You have empathy. You have courage. And after today, the board respects you more than they realize. She laughed softly, overwhelmed. You really believe I can do this? For the first time since they met, Cole gave her a smile that was genuine, warm, and completely unguarded. Yes, Marissa, he said. I do. The room fell quiet in a new, unfamiliar way. Not tense, not distant, but full of something steady and hopeful. Marissa pressed a hand gently to the folder. I want to do it, she said. I want to try. A flicker of relief crossed Cole's face. Good. He leaned back slightly, the weight of the previous days finally easing from his shoulders. This project can become something meaningful, he said. Not because it benefits the company, but because it benefits people who have been forgotten. Marissa nodded. That is why I want to do it. As she stood to leave the office, Cole spoke again, quieter this time. Marissa. She turned. I am proud of you. Her breath caught for a moment, warmth blooming in her chest. Thank you, she whispered. And for the first time, she saw him not as a distant CEO or the man who had offered her a contract, but as someone who believed in her, trusted her, and needed her in a way she had not expected. Project Open Hands was just beginning. But something else had begun too, a shift in the foundation of their marriage, where partnership was slowly turning into something real. 1 year later, Project Open Hands had grown far beyond what anyone expected. The bright blue mobile units traveled through different boroughs every week, offering warm meals, medical checkups, temporary shelter arrangements, and community support programs. Volunteers knew Marissa by name. Families greeted her with genuine gratitude. Newspapers praised the project as one of the city's most compassionate initiatives. And through every planning, meeting, every long night of coordinating teams, every challenge and breakthrough, Cole was there. Not hovering, not controlling, but supporting, asking for her insight, trusting her decisions, standing beside her during press events with a quiet pride that no contract could have manufactured. Their marriage, once defined by rules and distance, had softened into something patient and steady. They shared dinners now, conversations, small, unplanned moments of laughter, still careful, still respectful, but undeniably changed. Tonight, after a long day visiting one of the new aid sites in Brooklyn, Cole invited Marissa to the rooftop garden of the penthouse. A soft breeze carried the scent of lavender and fresh soil. The sky above them glowed faintly with the light of the city. Thank you for coming up, Cole said gently. I needed the air, Marissa replied with a small smile. It was a long day. You managed it well, Cole said. As you always do. They walked slowly between the planters, the city spread out beneath them. Something in Cole's posture was different, calmer, quieter, almost nervous in a way she had never seen before. He stopped near a wooden bench and reached into his jacket. I have something for you, he said. Marissa blinked, confused, until he held out a small, flat object, something carefully wrapped in clear protective plastic. Inside was the very first project sketch she had ever made. The rough pencil lines of the mobile aid unit, drawn in the community center before their marriage had even taken shape. She remembered that page. She remembered how impossible the idea had felt. She remembered showing it to Cole a year ago, uncertain and hopeful. You kept this? She whispered. Yes, Cole replied. It reminded me of the moment everything shifted. The moment you changed the direction of something that needed changing. Her throat tightened with emotion. And there is one more thing, he said quietly. He reached again into his jacket, this time pulling out a small velvet box. But when he opened it, there was no diamond ring. Instead, nestled inside was a simple gold band and a folded strip of paper, carefully laminated to preserve it. Marissa recognized it instantly. It was the original financial contract line, the line she signed the first day, agreeing to a marriage built on necessity, not affection. But the ink was crossed out with a single, deliberate stroke, and beneath it, written in Cole's handwriting, was one sentence: no more conditions. Only choice. Marissa felt her breath catch as Cole held out the ring. I wanted you to know, he said softly, that nothing we have built this past year was because of a contract. Not for the board. Not for appearances. It was because you walked into my life and changed it. Without asking for anything. Without expecting anything. His voice grew quiet, steady. Marissa, I cannot erase how we started. But I can choose how we continue. If you are willing. I would like this to be our real beginning. Emotion swelled in her chest. Gentle, overwhelming, warm. She looked at the ring. She looked at the crossed-out contract. Then she looked at the man who had once stood behind walls so high she could not see beyond them. And she whispered, yes. Cole let out a breath he had been holding for far too long. A soft, relieved exhale that said everything he had not been able to put into words. He placed the ring gently on her finger, not as an obligation, not as a symbol of a deal, but as something chosen. Chosen by him. Chosen by her. Chosen together. In the quiet rooftop garden, above the glowing city, their real marriage finally began. 3 months after that night on the rooftop garden, spring settled over New York with soft breezes and sunlight that warmed the city streets. Project Open Hands had expanded into a full network, reaching more people than Marissa had ever imagined possible. Volunteers, donors, and community families gathered regularly to celebrate its progress. Her name appeared in articles not as a mystery, not as a rumor, but as a respected director of the initiative. And now, on a quiet afternoon along a private coastal terrace outside the city, she stood at the center of a small ceremony, one chosen, not required. The ocean breeze lifted the hem of her simple ivory dress, nothing extravagant, just graceful and honest. A few close staff members from the foundation attended, along with Mr. Whitmore, Linda, and several families from the mobile aid program who insisted on being there. They brought homemade cookies, paper flowers, and warm smiles. Gifts that meant more to Marissa than anything money could buy. Cole waited at the end of the aisle, dressed in a navy suit that shimmered softly beneath the afternoon sun. For the first time since she met him, he did not look like a distant CEO carrying the weight of a corporation. He looked like a man who had chosen to show his heart. When Marissa reached him, Cole took her hands gently, his voice steady as he spoke. Marissa, when we first met, I thought marriage could be a tool, a structure, something controlled. But you brought life into places I had shut away. You taught me compassion without expecting anything in return. And you reminded me that leadership is not about power, but about humanity. From this day forward, I choose you. Not out of necessity, not out of obligation, but because my life is better with you in it. Marissa's eyes warmed with quiet emotion as she replied, Cole, I walked into your world afraid, unsure, and thinking I would only be a symbol in someone else's life. But you allowed me to stand beside you. You listened to me. You trusted me. And you showed me that even the coldest places can grow something real when people choose honesty and kindness. Today, I choose you, freely, wholeheartedly, and with gratitude for the man you have become. Warm applause rose from their small circle of guests. The officiant smiled and nodded. With the vows exchanged and the choices made, I now pronounce you husband and wife, by your own hearts, not by any contract. Cole reached for her hands again, not rushing, not claiming, simply holding them with the quiet certainty of someone who knew the value of what he had been given. Marissa felt the calm strength of the moment settle around them like a blessing. Behind them, the ocean shimmered. Before them, a group of people whose lives had intertwined with theirs stood cheering softly. As they turned to face their future together, Marissa felt her heart settle into a truth she finally understood. Her marriage no longer belonged to necessity, fear, or circumstance. It belonged to choice, to healing, to the steady, patient growth of two people who found each other in the most unlikely way. And now, without contracts or conditions, their real story could finally begin.